Welcome back to the Bobcat backhoe attachment rebuild video. In this episode, I'm going to try and get this control valve all apart. And I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm going to try and tackle it myself or give it to the machine shop. And we're also going to take the Kingpost off here and reseal the swing cylinders and also try and get the stabilizer cylinders out. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking about my D2 project, what's going on with it. It's right here. It's just patiently waiting for me to get other things done. I'd love to be working on this right now, but there's a couple other things that are more important that I have going on, including this backhoe attachment, because I do have a few jobs lined up for it. So until such time as I get those finished, the D2 is going to have to wait, unfortunately. It'll be back in full swing probably in the winter or sometime. So those of you who are waiting for more content on this, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to be patient, but it will be coming. But she's not going anywhere. She's nice and safe inside my shop here. No worries there. So yeah, let's get started on tearing this backhoe apart. All right, so right off the bat, I got a problem here. This O-ring boss fitting has been bashed backwards and pulled itself out of there. I'm hoping that it's just pulled out and the threads are okay in the barrel. If not, then we're going to have to fix this somehow. I'm not sure how we'll do that yet, but I'm going to take this off first and just have a look and see what we're up against here. All right, I got the hard line loosened off. Let's just see. It's still turning, which is a good sign. All right, we got lucky on this one, boys and girls. It pulled the thread off the fitting, and it looks like the thread inside the cylinder is okay. I'll just take you up here, you guys can have a look. Focus, come on. It's a little rusty, but the thread is undamaged. That is good news. Perfect, let's carry on. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is take this hydraulic spool valve out. Now, I'm going to move some of the sections around because, as I said in an earlier video, I'm going to swap this thing over from backhoe style control pattern to excavator style, which is what I'm used to. And these two, this is the boom section here, and that's the stick section. So what we're going to do is actually swap the sections around because the port reliefs are slightly different, and I think there's a regeneration valve in the boom section, and so rather than just swap hoses around, I'd rather put the proper spool where they're supposed to be. So that's what I'm going to do. They will stack up side by side no matter what, wherever you want to put them. So I could put them in any order that I want, but what I'm going to do is just put them like that. I've also heard of other people putting an extra spool section in there so they could have auxiliaries for something like a thumb, but I don't know where I'd even get one of these sections, so I'm just going to go without. I can always add something later on. The other thing I'm going to do is these hard lines here, I'm going to have to take them off. This one here is going to have to get replaced. It's squished flat, and some of these are pretty rusty, so I'll probably end up replacing those as well. I've got some tools coming to make new hard lines myself because nobody here anywhere in town seems to make them. So what I'll do is I'll just make my own. All I have to do is buy tubing. The ferrules and the B-nuts I should be able to reuse. So that'll also be shown on this video. So let's get to work. All right, so here's the valve bank out of the machine. I cleaned it up a little bit too, because obviously when you're working with hydraulics, it's important to keep things clean. So I put a garbage bag down on the bench too to keep any kind of stray dust or whatever to a minimum. I'm gonna try and take it apart myself here, so I'll set you guys up over to the side here somewhere and then we'll take this thing apart. Okay, so I got the valve bank disassembled. I didn't see anything overly scary in there other than one of these little springs here. Something's wrong with it, so I don't know if that was the issue or not. But regardless, yeah, everything looked good and clean in there, except for a little bit of rust on the tie bolts, but that's nothing. And the other thing I noticed is somebody seems to have been in here, and they seem to have undone the pressure relief valve. But that doesn't look, it's a little dirty. We'll clean that up nice. But other than that, I don't see anything that could have prevented oil from getting in and out of this thing. So I'm wondering if maybe what happens sometimes is the quick couplers, they sometimes block off oil flow if something's wrong with them. So maybe that's what the issue was. I don't know. And we did see oil flowing relatively freely out of this thing when we were moving the levers and draining the hydraulic system when it was still all more or less together. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm wondering if it's worth even pulling the spools and stuff out, or if I should just, yeah, you know what? I probably should. So that's what we'll do next. Sorry guys, forgot to turn the camera on when I took this apart, but I got it apart. There's really nothing to it. You just undo the cap here. I'll show you on one of these here. You just undo this cap, pull out these two bolts, and then the whole spool pulls out. And then the other end, there's these little cap screws here that I had to fight with a little bit, but a little bit of heat got them out, no problem. And then all it is these three little seals here. Well, there's two little O-rings here and this big O-ring between the sections. So I'm gonna go get some new ones of those here at some point. Hopefully my supplier here in town has them. If not, I'll just get them ordered in. And that's really all it is. These other ones here with the relief valves, I'll pop the relief valves out and see what they got there. But other than that, there's nothing to it. And that's all the instructions they give you in the book right there. These three little short paragraphs. That's as simple as it is. So anyway, when I get the new seals, I will take the rest of the stuff apart, pardon the cord here, and reseal them, and I'll show you guys then. So again, sorry about forgetting to turn the camera on there, but really you didn't miss much. All right, so while we wait for the seals to arrive, I'm gonna see if I can't pop these outrigger cylinders out. And then after that, we'll take off the main post there. Well, here's no surprise. These pins, they are completely and totally stuck. So what I might have to do is lift this whole affair up and drop it out the bottom, and then figure out how to get this off on the bench, because yeah, this is not coming out. I could probably heat it up some more, but I don't know, we'll see. I'll keep playing with it. Okay, after looking at it some more, the whole shooting match has to come out the top. So what I can do is I can cut the foot off and then pull the whole affair up out the top. So that's what I'm gonna do, because I highly, highly doubt that bolt is gonna turn. So anyway, I'm gonna cut it off, pull it out, and then I'll bring you guys back. There, got that part of it out. Had to cut the foot off, well, the bolt that went through the foot, and then try to get that turning, or at least get it backed out. And it did not want to move because it was packed full of, I don't know how many years of dirt. And I'm sure the same thing's going to be going on with this pin here, which is the one I was trying to drive out, which holds the cylinder in there. It's an interesting little cylinder. It's got two ports here on the top and no external lines, so it's probably a double jacketed or something like that cylinder. I'm not exactly sure how it works yet, but we're gonna tear it apart and find out. So now I got to figure out a way to get this pin out of here, and I don't think it's gonna be that much fun. I'll probably end up drilling it out, which, yeah, I don't think that'll be fun, but we're gonna give it a whirl, or at least figure out some way to get it out. We're getting there. I drilled out the center and then I blew some of it out with the torch. Just a little bit left. Just about done. Victory! I got it out, and it wasn't easy. I'm sure the other one's going to be just as much fun. I'll actually maybe try and film that for you guys. So yeah, this is the cylinder here. And it goes into this thing here, which is this round. This is the stabilizer leg itself, and it's got this square end on the top here to keep the whole thing more or less pointing the same direction. And the cylinder goes down into there, and yeah, the street pad bolts on there, and then the cylinder is held on, or the rod end of the cylinder is held in with a pin through that guy right there, which corresponds to this here. Now all this here always sits down in the dirt, so it's no surprise that this was all seized up solid. And I wasn't too sure if I should take these apart. I thought if I just cycle them back and forth a few times, get all the dirt out. But looking at it now, it definitely needs a reseal. And so will the other one, I'm sure. So anyway, I'm going to give this a power wash and see what it looks like. That actually came apart pretty easily. So it's a pretty neat little cylinder actually. So instead of having a tube line running from here all the way down and then coming in, they just used this outer jacket here. So a tube within a tube. And the fluid comes in, there's a little port right there. And then it just runs all along the outside of this part of the cylinder, makes its way through this hole and through the head onto this end of the piston. And then it can retract the cylinder. Now I think the problem I'm gonna run into here is that this head here, it's almost completely eroded away here. And this head is also what holds this outer jacket on. So there's two things that can happen. Is either I can get a new one from Bobcat. I'll be surprised if they're still available. Otherwise I'll have to either make one or get one made. But I'm leery of putting this back on because I really don't think that's gonna hold much anymore. I mean, this part of it here is fine, but it's this outer part here that I'm worried about, this piece slipping off here. But anyway, it'll be a topic for another day. I'm going to get this thing, all the seals off of it, and get them sent off for measuring. And that way, hopefully, I can get some new ones. And then once the other cylinder comes apart, I will have 2 sets of seals for it, and we should be able to put everything back together nicely. And by then, hopefully, I'll have a new head as well. Okay, time to pull the other one out. I pulled this pin out, it wasn't anything dramatic, so you guys didn't miss anything. I've got the lines undone up here. So in order to get this out, you have to take this little cap off. Then this pin pulls out. Can't really do it with one hand. And then there's these 2 spacers, and then once this whole affair comes out, it just lifts right out the top. So out comes the pin and the spacers. And the foot's still stuck to the bottom. We'll take that off. And the whole assembly comes out just like that. So here's the 2 stabilizer pads. This was on the left side of the machine and that one was on the right side, the one I just took off. They leave a lot to be desired, these 2, so I think I might just make new ones. There's not much to them. Probably that's what I'll end up doing, and then, because they were all packed full of dirt, that's why they weren't flopping around. But once all this dirt's out of there, they're probably gonna flop around pretty good. So you can see how egg-shaped this guy is here from being side-loaded, I guess, all the time. So what I'll do is I'll just get some heavy thick wall material here, and yeah, I'll just make a couple new ones. And they don't have any kind of grouser or anything on the bottom either, so they'll probably slide quite easily. So I might just put a couple grousers on the bottom of it too. It shouldn't be the biggest deal in town to make those. And then it'll keep the machine hopefully from pulling itself towards where it's digging a little bit. Might not be so great on asphalt or something, but time will tell. I can always put a piece of plywood or something underneath it. We'll see. So next order of business will be to take the Kingpost off. That's what I'll do now. Well, there's something nice to see. This thing's actually quite full of grease. So they obviously greased this one. The bottom one, I don't know, but we'll see. So you gotta pull this bolt out, and then there's an identical one on the bottom, and then the whole thing should just slide right out. So let's see if that actually happens. Okay, so I got my little chain hoist hooked up to it here, so to take the weight off the post, and I'm gonna pop it off and see what happens. Well, that came out no difficulty at all. The only problem was, of course, the pin. I didn't realize that it's a pin with a bolt on either end to hold it in. And of course, the one on the bottom didn't want to come out, so it wanted to slide out the bottom. Then there's a couple bearings in here, one in the top. When they welded this, it looks like they just made it so that the bearing slips in there. But the bottom one here is actually retained by this caging thing, so I'm gonna have to pop that off. And then after that, out comes a swing cylinder, and then that'll be as far as we're going to go with this today. So I guess there's no saving this bearing here. I tried to get it out, but it wouldn't move. This is what the upper one looks like, and this bottom one here, it's missing a chunk, and then it's cracked down there. The bottom part's broken off. So what I'll do is I'll just torch that one out and get a new one, because there's no saving that one. So I decided, instead of trying to torch the bearing out in here, I'll just take it outside. So what I'll do first is just take the swing cylinder off, and then I'll move the whole thing outside and then torch it off outside rather than risk burning my little shop down. And that's that. The bearing is out. The housing actually looks not bad. We just have to put a new bearing in there and everything will be good to go. I also took the serial number tag off, so now this thing is as far apart as it's going to get, and it's off to the sandblaster for sandblasting and paint. Hopefully it won't be too long before I get it back. I also got new seals on the way for the stabilizer and swing cylinders, and I'm going to go get some new O-rings for the control valve hopefully tomorrow, and then we'll get all that put back together before too long. So this will be the end of this video. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next go around when we start putting her back together. Till then, see you later. Bye.